versus MIBR here on Oregon first. As the Ying gets banned by the side of Oxygen, that's going to be stopping a couple of potential quick blends.
I think it's fair. It's had some uses. It's had some plays. Finca as well. Again, it's something we talked about before. Her ban statistics over this tournament is the highest it's ever been. It's just such a frequency to be removed because of, especially against, from my sort of perspective on this, NA teams from this tournament have been such big adopters of LMGs. And everybody's utilizing LMGs. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just saying that they're entirely pushing onto that as a meta, but they're really showing the strengths of a gun that's in a really, really good place. And you've sort of seen it in games with NA teams, is people are just removing Finca because it's another big LMG where other regions, EU, they like to use the Spear, for example. They just pull it out of there. The Wamai, the Mirror, more limitations on those sort of corner plays. Pretty more standard, Oregon.
Yeah, those are quite standard. The Mirror, of course, almost all the time. Sometimes you see a Valkyrie still coming out or anything like that. Not the case here. Also, a Thatcher on the board. And the further we proceed in this tournament, the more that I actually see the Thatcher being available to be used. Of course, we'll make it a little bit easier to open up these walls. And it might also be on the case, you know, at this point in the tournament, there's this many good teams that everybody will know how to deal without the Thatcher being available if you want to open up these walls. And as the laundry supply room will be picked up, it is the Hibana that swaps off to a Capitao and the Goyo towards a Valkyrie. Now, there is going to be hatches. 3 of them in total.
Yeah.
That requires... That's 3 times 4 Excaros, 12 of them.
Yeah, keep
or
going.
3 Heartbreach gadgets. You only have 2 now, so you're a bit limited.
That's the sort of trade-off there. I mean, in terms of trying to get yourself in the application here of the basement, it's usually you'll pay the attention to the hatches, as you said. Sometimes, if they are coming in with limitations, they'll sort of funnel themselves to either more attention onto E-Box and potentially Freezer so they can get a bit of width there and ignore Laundry Hatch. Or if they're going for something with a little bit more of a Laundry Freezer focus, obviously, you should still try and get E-Box pressure open, but to be honest, you don't always have that extension. Outside of that, sure, there's walls like the one that back onto E-Box between that little door by blue, which is often highlighted as being called Shaiko. There's those sort of limitations of hard destruction, but the cost on that basement is usually, from the defender side of view, a really big open hold.
Vertical holding aggressive here, looking to find an early entry onto the sides of MIBR. They want to open up, they want to disrupt the attack from the start, just to make sure that they would have that one man less to really worry about at the start or the end of the round. As he has to fall off, it's the Valkyrie cameras of Foxay trying to provide some extra information. Extra rotates, side slides will be created as well, as Raps is well aware of the fact that there seems to be people up in the roaming area up top.
Yeah, Raps, you can see, is trying to stack himself up here with this early bout of pressure. Philippebox is a bit far away with Lucan on the swing on to Zulu. Reduct is droning just the backside, trying to isolate vertical, and they find him. Yoga, he's going on a bit of a rotation just to cover alongside the back of Foxay and Kino, who's close by with the smoke and the shotgun, so nobody floods in behind them. But an early quick pick there, and the sort of retreat that came across the side of OXG, they made sure they didn't lose more than just one person.
Yeah, it could have been really bad down there, especially when Foxa ran over towards the freezer stairs. His cameras are slowly being picked apart, but for now, still one at least left standing on the backstage. Will give away whether or not it is going to be held by any of the MIBR players and might even warrant a potential flank to come through. That camera is going to be quite important because as soon as this hatch does get opened up, you might want to put some pressure back down upon the meeting side of things. And as Oxygen is just trying to hold off now, Foxay is debating whether or not he should go up at some point.
You can sort of strike back. It becomes an almost very risky maneuver because of the 3 stair sets, the 3 sort of ways you can swing into the backside of a team if they are missing one. And that's why we talk about the control of those hatches, as it forces more caution on the approach, the swing of the players. Here, this is that laundry take. This is that freezer take I talked about. They're setting themselves up here with just the roll down and force any of those players and shields out of that corner. No mirror means any swings from that little supply box are going to be a lot more dangerous. Yoga's in a power position here behind that core pillar. Kino's rotating closer as those smoke canisters can try and long-arm them to the approach here of Philippox, but we can start to hear Capitao whirring away, gets the small box, and Philippox gets dropped. Kino with a swing, slinks his way away, but the diffuser, it's got itself a little bit deeper. Falls wants to see if he can find a close corners to plant it, but everyone getting stunned. Raps is able to cement one with Kino still battling back. Foxsave finally is able to find a little bit of a way. No, back into supply closet. That single Capitao didn't quite get him on the catch. I thought he'd been free, but with 15 seconds, they got to try and get him out at this point. They have an isolation, and Laxing has a bit of a rotation, a swing onto the wide side. It's the spray onto the Cappy. The diffuser is cold. A 2 versus 1, as they've got to frequently try and just find some of this attention on OXG's players. The last, he's going to give a bit of a game away. The explosion. They have a rough idea on his play. There's the pre-fire, and Lukid is able to lock it out.
Very well played by MIBR there, and you saw, okay, they were able to flood that side, and normally where the old mirror would be placed in that cubby, it was suddenly out of play. The firebolts came in from the Capitao. That is so they can stop any player from swinging out that door. A second Capitao used on the rotation a bit further down, so the only real angle you all have to worry about at that moment in time is going to be that hallway. And yes, Oxygen was able to fight back. Oxygen was able to get these trades to go their way. But MIBR, they managed to at least find the advantage in the end there. Kept the player inside of the small cubby who rotated in right after. They find a round, they get the plant, and find a frag.
Fast start to a game that I think is going to have a lot of those fast starts. They're doubling down inside Laundry, and the way that MIBR approached there is you sort of would have been okay to be distracted by the fact that time had almost entirely gone. Because of the way that they set themselves up, they seem to be continually moving to the side. It felt like they had the energy of a team that didn't really stop or pause as soon as the machine started rolling. It wanted to find its way all the way to the destination. There was very little setup and hesitation. It was, there's an objective. Okay, let's try and get there. They got the kill onto Vertical on the route through, and then were able to pull themselves in on an execute. But very little dead air time in the push itself.
That's it, just the initial droning. And after that, MIBR started to open up these hatches. You had a little bit of pressure on the E-box, you had them on the laundry, you had them in the freezer. Grenades came out on 2 of them at the very same time, which normally doesn't really give you a good idea where the actual push will be coming from. A big change-up, however, is near. Foxe in that big tower. Vertical is playing inside the dining. Some wallbangs are attempted, and the drone will give away that at least 8 players out there, but they might not know about the second Yoga right behind the Showers corridor, who's starting to fall back and will want to make sure that he lives to fight for the rest of this game, for the rest of this round. But with Foxe descending these stairs and a drone entering from that 3rd floor, they should find out that there is one currently in those big stairs in the big towers.
Yeah, it's that sort of awareness I talked about before. They couldn't quite get the handle on where the OXG players were on the site, and Laxing was almost in a position to be able to clutch it out. You saw the swing on the audio come around at the last possible second, but here they seem to be trying to build themselves a better network of intel and information before they actually go for the pressure itself. The pings are coming through inside the small server box, and Vert's just going to drop out a sec and find his way back down to Freezer. Time wasted and not his blood this time round. They haven't been able to capitalize on a singular player, and you can see MIBR, this is what I talked about before. After they got that opening kill, they just kept driving. Here, they're still weighing up options.
Still weighing up indeed, but you know, if you still start the execute with roughly 60 seconds on that clock, it's plenty of time, especially since every single member of OXG is currently giving up the freezer, giving up the laundry. That seemed to be the main priority for the side of MIBR, and as they open up the laundry hatch yet once more, they're going to be making sure they could go for a quick push there, or at least provide some support. Philippox also using that tube, the blowtorch, to open up the hatch on the E-box, and with that, more pressure will be coming down. A minute left on that clock. Lukid is aware of the fact that there might be cameras giving away his position, so he's slowly descending as he's getting himself into a position, and the first one he will find is Yoga, who's currently still dancing around the corner, and with this EMP dropping, they might be getting rid of any ADSs or any, well, other pieces of utility that will stop these discs and grenades from coming through.
There it is. The Thatcher, as you saw there, was able to allow them to pop open all of the holes in the shield, and the ADS is inside the back of Laundry. That is that swing shield that we talked about. The potential of Kino on the previous round to cause some devastation. 30 seconds, the grenade bounces and catches out Yoga. They're holding the angle, but it's a bit of a scrappy fight on the far side. Kino gets one in vertical, is able to lock off a double of his own. Suddenly a 4 versus 2, and it's a bit of a locked door here on Freezer with the smoke canisters, but Falls finds the cook. And that is all under Vertical's feet right now. Raps, he's going to see if he can swing his way in close in the sight. One on elbow and one on the split round. The grenade is going to force a bit of a movement, give himself a second to cover there. Lucan's able to get a connection, but a couple of seconds, they're not connected. There's a catch. But a loose Oxygen player, this time, is able to cause the round to go their way.
Yep, one left there in the end. Oxygen able to have a survivor inside elbow. Didn't have to swing, of course. Was ready to do that in case it was necessary, in case it did went out of their hands, out of their momentum. But a 1-1. And Oxygen, they lock off that bottom floor side. Will be heading up towards that top floor now, towards the dorms. And something that MIBR tried to go for here is, even though they did not have that first kill early on, because they still had the entry, they tried to use that utility, use these asphyxiating bolts, use these grenades. What they didn't do, however, was the smoke bolts. Those were not deployed. And they might be able to help you in these situations where you want to go for a plant, because you block these lines of sight. And of course, a smoke is not a wall. You can still get banged right through it. But if they don't know what they're shooting at, they need to, well, anticipate where you are at that very given moment. And if you have a player inside Freezer, he can watch that run out from the hallway. And that way, you would have been able to deal with all 3 different angles and would have potentially been able to get a plant down later on as well. Of course, not the case. Oxygen find a round here. And MIBR, well, as they won that first, probably not too worried about the rest of this health yet. They're headed towards that top floor now. It's a new site for them to attack, and it will potentially start around either the attic or the walk-in closet.
That's it. We get to have the taste of dorms. We get to have a taste of a second hold here coming out, and it's still this weird atmosphere that hovers over this game. I know before we came into this, Jackie described it as a tension in the air, a little bit of heat, and there's always going to be that moment here, but both these teams have survived lower bracket up till this point. Both of them have been able to take, I believe, 2 lower bracket scalps for their sort of journey. One of them, NIP and SSG, the other M&M and DK. It's not little names that have got these 2 teams to this point.
Definitely not. And both these teams have shown that they're worth being here at this given moment. And as the first RC Retiros are coming through, it is just to get rid of some utility. Through the drone hole, actually stuck? No, not quite yet. And it runs through all the way. Laxing unable to get it, and the shield will drop there in the end. So Attic suddenly lost a big part of the defense there.
I mean, that was a drone, the little drone that could, and it definitely did. It went all the way to that back line of the shield. Doesn't really need to find its way, obviously, to the wall if anything was there to stop it. There's a catch of a claw a little bit too late, and that charge is going to get popped open. Lax, a bit concerned now about the pressure that might come around onto Trophy. MIBR, they're stacking themselves up, getting control of the bottom of White and limiting any rotations. We talked about the importance of those before. That's just going to open the doors for, well, a drone that couldn't. The first one was able to go the distance. The second one means that those ADS stay solid in the bottom half of Attic. Fox looking for a bit of a rotate around here. Can cause trouble, and Armory Stairs might be the play.
All right, so for now we have 3 around those armory stairs on the side of MIBR, 1 outside White. There is some spots coming through on the members of Oxygen, who now will find a wild Yana at the bottom floor as well, looking to ascend these White stairs. You said it, Yoga is in a good position. He might be able to pick up a good flank here. There's 2 players of MIBR looking to hit from this side of the map. They want to go for a bit of a pinch push here. And as these grenades start coming through, small amounts of damage will be done, but nothing quite, well, significant yet. And as Luca goes for a second dab, will also do just a little bit of chip damage towards Laxing. It's MIBR that is yet to find an entry. With 45 seconds on the clock, they do not really have smokes to use except for those in Files' pocket.
Well, there's a drone that is dropped and caught out, and Fox is just doing that to sort of say, well, I'm around here. And that means MIBR, they've got to make the crash decision. They try and barrel their way into the site, which seems like the start of it. The smoke canisters sort of say no entrance. Kino doing everything I can, so Luka has popped his way over to the big double window, but Laxing is there with the cover and support. OXG have got themselves set up to rebuff this fight and just offer themselves a little bit extra. 15 seconds. Fools is going to see if they can just slip their way inside the smoke and try and stick the plant. Kino with the wide swing gets the connection on the cover, but Raps comes in huge. Vert is able to get there a little too late, and it's suddenly a 3 versus 3. MIBR took a little bit of damage, but made sure it was worth the trade and somehow slink a plant onto the floor. Yoga coming up the rotation here of Armory. There's Fools holding a close swing there on his right-hand side, and he's ready and waiting for this engagement. Popped and pre-fired, but with Raps going down, and well, a drop on the opposite side. It's still a 2 versus 2, less than 20 seconds. Luka has a bit of a watch from one side, Fools on the other, and Fox is going to see if he can isolate at least a single player of that, but you're looking at now, single digits Vert, easily picked up, Fox out of time, and MIBR had nothing really to work with, but they still made it work.
Nicely set up post plant there, and as the smoke canister was used, they had an idea that there might be a plant going through, of course, based on the smoke that was tossed in by the thermite of files before. It didn't quite last long enough, and the plant could come through. This is key. Just that first one. Suddenly that shield is unplayable. Suddenly you can start pushing in a little bit closer here. And as Kino gets that very first kill, it instantly falls into the hands of MIBR right after. And they find themselves into that 2v3 post plant. Luka in a perfect position right behind the bunk bed. All he had to do was wait for the sound and swing onto someone who doesn't even have his gun up at that moment in time. And MIBR, as they find that second round, will attack the meeting now. Dirtry to come out. Oxygen, they do not want to rerun dorms.
That's it. It doesn't feel worth it for them because, to be honest, from their side, they did have everything going in their favor. I pointed it out. There's 20 seconds left. They still have all of their players up. They still have pretty much everything locked, and the smoke had popped 2 canisters, maybe 3 at that point. I'd have to go back and check. There was at least 1 on the side of Walkin and 1 where the eventual plant went down. As I said, it was just that decision from MIBR is, well, let's see if we can stick it close. A position that was so out in the open, but everybody had awareness of each other.
Yeah, they did have awareness of each other. They knew exactly where everybody was at that very moment in time, and as they went for that push in the end, it is the Valkyrie cameras to be tossed out. That one missed. That might have been the actual point. Seems to be the case. Didn't want to get one of the antenna. And Oxygen have a little bit of a awareness on that top floor, a little bit of presence that they'll try and hold off for as long as they possibly can. MIBR looking to go at least for a straight push towards the kitchen side.
Droned ahead. Luka's going to see if they can get a loose catch here onto, well, anybody that might be around the Zulu side, but it's actually very open, very isolated. They have the vertical pressure. And that's something that you can't just really leave. You're not going to be able to get a plant into kitchen without some attention paid to those players above because there's just so much for them to be able to swing around and underneath. It's not impossible, and they've pulled off tough things before, but still, with 2 minutes on the clock, they know that they have a lot of other work to do first.
There's a lot of work to do indeed. They need to decide, first of all, what will we go for? Are we going for a kitchen plant or a meeting one? It is quite important to know because it requires you to either get the dorms under control for your plant or to get the attic to head your way. This is a very good cam here from Vertical. He's spotting out a player onto the balcony. Not really anything they can do about it, however, and as this grenade bounces around the corner, it's going to allow the exothermic to open up onto the kitchen and provide a very long angle potentially into the security as well. And thus Kino now stuck behind his refrigerator. Checking the cams, trying to find if there's someone he can swing. And Luka just standing by in the showers corridor together with the rest of his teammates. Is Foxy hiding in the corner right here. He gets swung on, misses the first couple of shots. They know exactly where he is, but he still gets the first kill.
Caught back though, Rep swings his way from the top of showers, and suddenly it's trades all across the board, but Vertical keeps everything into their favor for the second split. They're going to see if they can try and take some of this vertical. Going to see if they can try and just lock it off away from the aforementioned player, but he's happy to keep this fight up on the top of the stairs. A minute on the board, and, well, leaning into that grenade, Raps puts the pin back in and pulls himself a bit further down to make sure he doesn't get caught out by a Deagle that already has 2 names etched on the side.
I'm so confused. I see the Deagle for 2 kills there, but either way, MIBR currently locked out below these white stairs. One in the showers corridors. That one bounces back and almost takes his own life. Reps is looking to take control of the security here to provide a bit of safety for Falz to maybe dig in deep and go for a plant. But as long as Vertical's on that top floor, he has an opportunity to counter whatever is happening. And as Falz is sneaking through, it seems like Vertical might be aware. There comes the kill. That's the diffuser gets dropped, and it's the second one from Kino as well. The SMG-11 is going to be able to lock it up for Oxygen here and puts us up into 2-2.
2 apiece, and it's been back and forth the whole time. And obviously Laundry, the one place we've seen twice, will open itself back up. The doors of possibility are now back in the favor of both of these to try and determine who really has the better swing of it here, at least in the first half, because this is far from the last time we will see it brought to our battlefield. It has been a bit of a mixed bag. I think the first time round, as I said, MIBR were able to get that early catch, then just keep the pressure hot behind it. Yep. Then they were slowed the second. They couldn't get a grasp of anybody on the side itself, and because of that, that loose single player at the end, that, to be fair, was almost the cause of OXG winning it the first time round, meant that MIBR lost it out, and they will be aware that that time, that problem of not quite having the full read, the full beat on the 5 boys on site means that they're going to have to try and, I guess, potentially pinch from blue, maybe a bit of pressure on tower, stop that rotate, or force them to be in a position where, well, we know where they are.
That's it. The last time they did get quite close, but again, elbow, one of those points they do not have under control. And if you go for an elbow control, you either need to commit quite a bit of utility for it or sneak in at the edge of the round. Like, you open up that barricade before, you don't put any pressure towards it for the majority of the round, and then you just come in if they think it's clear and potentially strike them down. There's also a way you could drop the hatch, walk around the corner, then go into elbow from there on. Towards some called Shaiko spot, head into there. But I don't know, like, I think the original take, it worked quite well. It was just the fact that they couldn't quite find the first entry early on that made them struggle so much. So if MIBR managed to isolate one of these players that is currently off the site, such as Yoga, who is currently ascending the stairs and will find himself into dorms soon, close him off, make sure that he can go through. It's actually Reps that seems to be going quite quickly into Laundry. You might be catching some off guard.
That's it. He could catch Kino, and he does. Just caught them in the middle, and suddenly they've got to try and rotate their way back. They expected more of a fight here on the mid-floor. They expected more of an engagement, and that puts Yoga in an awkward situation because of that slow sort of creep he's got to make. He's been able to repopulate, but look at how Kino's been able to lead into this game. And look at the canisters that have been removed, and sure, they haven't been entirely visually effective. They haven't got a direct drop or a pushback, but they've definitely held them at bay, and they've definitely held some time and some attention and focus. If you wanted a first pick, there's probably no name you wanted to take more than the one that's already off the board.
That's it, right? Those smoke canisters are so crucial. You remove them from the board now, but that is effectively, let's say, roughly 40 seconds of denial in a certain spot where they wouldn't be able to plant. And now you remove that from the board, it has to come down more towards different kinds of utilities, such as that Nitro Cell in the hands of Laxing or potentially the Evil Eyes that Foxa can control. And as it is that 2v2, it's a pretty important round. The hatches are being opened up as well. There's no more Capitao that will use these Heartbridge gadgets to open up. It's going to be the Excaros that does it instead. And as Oxygen is trying to rotate around, is trying to find the right places to be at that current site, EMPs are also still popping through, potentially to find pieces of utility that could be located out there, such as mute jammers to allow drones to come through, but also ADS, so these nades will actually hit the shields that they're meant for.
Well, not just a shield, 2 ADSs and a mute jammer as well. All gone by a good combination with a Thatcher, and well, that'll allow them just some safety here onto the freezer approach, because they cannot just keep themselves on that back line, which is why all those openings are there. But still, as we've seen before, there's work that still has to be done. OXG can have a hold. They can try and repeat some pressure, and this is what we're seeing now, a change. The drop onto E-Box is caught entirely out there. It's a bit of a back and forth, but suddenly Reduct can make some work happen on the Laundry swing itself. It's just Fox left, but not for very long. MIBR They realized they were a little bit too blinded, a little bit too pushed in to a singular angle, so opted for a new one, and it was very sharp.
And this is something I do quite often say, like, if only these teams would realize there is a free opening into the site. You can freely pick up some kills if you just dig yourself in deep right away, and that's exactly what Rabs did. He just went down those stairs, got that first kill, an important one at that, because suddenly there is no more smoke canisters on the board, and MIBR, they managed to, well, gather some momentum of it. The grenade they tossed, by the way, in the little side office with the laundry machines, also very important. 2 ADSs and a shield and a mute jammer. It's basically a power position at that point. You stop anybody from moving in from that double door behind that shield without really having to worry, because you can look through these little cracks, but they are not going to be able to see you as well as you can see them. So taking that out of the equation, suddenly Fox with the LMG needs to swing wide rather than having utility to rely on.
3-2. And obviously this is MIBR's map, so they think that they can start to really apply the pace when they swap over to their defense here. It's up to OXG to try and cement themselves in even half, an even bit of a go at it. And they've got themselves stacked up. A little bit of the Flores play went, well, a long way, but they've opted for the different setup. You're looking at the stretch with the Habana. Obviously, you have what is a pretty standard lineup here, so you expect some pressure to come across from tower.
You definitely expect that indeed. Small tower at least is being taken already. Just slightly luke it out here. Probably will be well aware about the fact that there could be someone in dining, and for now MIBR are not really looking forward to clear that out, so they'll leave it for what it is currently. You might just be able to cut him off on a rotate later on. Might be able to pick up a free kill as a result, but as I say that, rotate's already coming through. You see the blue body just running by underneath. Luke it there. That was vertical, of course. Falling back towards the kitchen, and as these cameras are giving a lot of utility to the side, or a lot of information to the side of Oxygen. They now know someone is at that main door. That means they will start to put some pressure down, probably from below, to get rid of any mute jammers that could be placed right on that wall. Of course, Reduct is out here with the Thatcher as well, so they could easily use an EMP to get rid of it. So, you know, they open it up, maybe as a flank watch, maybe to make sure no one goes up those stairs. We know, of course, Foxe is off site. And they're trying to make sure that they have everything covered on the side of MIBR.
Lucid going a little bit wider with his approach here and seeing if they can try and put some pressure potentially to the bottom of White Stairs, or maybe even some depth charge grenades that might try and catch some of the players. A big consistency throughout this tournament. They obviously have their stretch, they have their pressure, and they put this push together last time with about 15 seconds. They're trying to build themselves a little bit more, but there's otherwise nothing too intently. They still have bodies underneath. They have themselves opening, but you cannot just leave C4 players free around Zulu.
No, it's going to get dangerous when you want to go for that plant, especially with a camera like this up. Foxe is going to move up now, is going to toss one of those nitros. That could be a double kill. No, just one. Misses the right opportunity and Reduct will fall. But MIBR, they still have an opening. They still know one is currently offside, and as Lucas is on his flank watch and his grenade pops through, is Laxing that loses his shield? No, actually, it stays up for now. And he knows. But 50 seconds, MIBR, they will be forced to go for the push soon, and every single Oxygen member is on site but one. And as they need to go through a plant in the games room is highly likely.
The shield gets dropped, and Lax actually moves into where the explosion happened. He's Commando crawling his way all the way underneath, but Fool's caught him at the end, and a canister catches him back. It's sprayed dirtly around the corner, and there's one more, but it's suddenly all exploding into the dorms. Fox on the roam in the smoke. Tanked a huge amount of damage, but it's a Luke kid that has that final connection and a 4-2 half for MIBR.
And as I said, that our plans would be very likely in games. They decided, you know what, we're not going to do that. It's too risky. We have that man disadvantage. They can trade for all they want. So they decided to run through the smoke, head into Edit, clear the player that was prone underneath so you could get that support, and afterwards kill two more. It was a good C4 from Foxe. He would have been able to pick up a double kill potentially here. And Kino, as he picks up one, was unaware of the fact that there was a second player still in attic there. The one that was originally challenging, I believe that was Laxing playing on the attic. And gets picked up right after. And as a result, they could go for a plan. They could put up some pressure. And now a 2-4 on the board. MIBR are leading by 2 rounds. And Oxygen will be going over to the attack themselves as it is MIBR's turn to create these puzzles that need solving.
Okay, OXG, it's time to see if you can apply some pressure to this. You have yourself pretty much everything you need to get through any hard surface with the combo of a little bit of soft. There is obviously going to be pocket throws, 4 grenades, and a couple of smokes. Really, it's well-rounded if you can get everything to land precisely. That's the sort of risk of bringing this sort of lineup, obviously, without the limitations or without the possibilities of something like a Zoth or something with a little bit more range. We've already seen and talked about the power holds and corners and shields that this site offers, and it means that you've got to be a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more debonair with a wide swing of a grenade in the right place, or a very adventurous Twitch drone.
That's it. Sometimes the Twitch drones have some good effects here. And they were being brought, of course, by Yoga. If you look on those big tower stairs, it's just roaming around, hoping to, well, waste some time, but also provide some pressure. And as there are still rotates happening on the MIBR side, that might actually be quite detrimental here. Noise is being made by Oxygen, so Reduct now knows, okay, I need to stay here. There's no real way out. The rest of Oxygen is just trying to find a way in after MIBR is having to do that for the last 6 rounds. The drone gets caught, Feeler Box trying to actively work against the information and instantly drops it through towards the kitchen so we can find out whether or not the dining is currently being occupied. And he finds one, so that call will come through to Reduct. Hey, one is in kitchen, he's currently prone. There might be more coming, so be very careful of your next steps.
Clarity, and that's what they're trying to find right now, but obviously the catch of drones is going to make things a little bit trickier. We've already talked about how MIBR sort of struggled when they weren't able to find that first body, and it's the same story here for OXG, a slip away. Wasted time and possibilities on a catch, and MIBR are now full strength back into the bastion that is that basement. They have everything that they can to try and rebuff this approach, and they've wasted about half the time. Now, OXG, when they have a little bit more confidence, they might try and start shepherding and shoveling their way down. Reduct is going to be potentially the first you meet them, though. He's toying with the idea of some aggression on the stairs with a ping on the camera watched. As soon as that got dropped, suddenly you lose a lot of that confidence.
Currently 2 reinforcements left and pocket as well of MIBR, so they could lock up Elbow if they want to, but there's absolutely no reason for them to do that at this moment in time. There's no pressure coming through. And as Yoga goes for these Twitch drones, he wants to find utility, crucial utility. Think of ADSs, there you have it. That's one that means a grenade can now sail through and potentially find a kill on the other side, but not allowed to go further than that. Wants to continue that pressure. 50 seconds. They need to go for an execute soon, but they do not have an entry yet. And as the next drone gets taken out as well, the cameras will stay up. The information continues to be fed, and as the first smoke canister gets popped, it is going to be the laundry sides that is being hindered by that the most, as Raps will be found by a grenade himself.
This is it. This is what I talked about, that utility. It's got to be a dangerous and brave drone, and they couldn't quite get that bulletproof, and now they're going to have to get the removal with the grenades instead of the pop of a long bit of burst utility. 20 seconds. Every player still standing, and we're about to get quite quick here on the approach on Laundry. It's locked in, 3 bodies. OXG, they're seeing if they can find a way past the close slim, but it's rolled in over the corner. They have some cover and protection. It's smoked out on the connector. It's back and blow, but it's no plant, no diffuser. Suddenly, MIBR start to flood their way back in. Gotta go for the recollection. It's a single player versus 2, but MIBR have just... It's one of those situations I talked about there where they were obviously trying to get rid of that power position that we've already highlighted in Laundry. It's a different manner of holding it. MIBR had that single bulletproof camera that was really far back, really far on the back line, so it wasn't very easy to get a handle on. To get it, you have to have more control inside Freezer. To have more control inside Freezer, you have to have the confidence that you can get in front of it. It's that sort of catch-22 that's played against here, and there wasn't the most direct line. There wasn't the most direct way through to it. They attempted it with a Twitch drone, attempted it with a grenade there at the end to sort of cover the side of the push. But when you're on 15 seconds and you're utilizing that utility to get rid of that utility to cover a plant, things become a little bit more slippy. The team took the timeout to make sure that they can keep themselves off of map point for as long as possible. They have to try and pull a perfect rotation here across these sites, including, technically, if they get that far, the one that they just lost, if they want to have some hope of taking Oregon.
That's it. They want to have Oregon in their hands. At least Oxygen, you know, you want to make sure that you lock this off as quickly as you can. And of course, MIBR, this is their map pick. They will be the ones that have the advantage if they lock this one off, headed into the next. It's not over yet. And Oxygen, they did get quite close. If it wasn't for the little amount of time they had, they could have clutched it out in the end there. But a 2-5. And it's a Nuck that tries to sneak in, potentially go up towards these white stairs and wreak some havoc. Yoga trying to do what the side of MIBR did before, where they just showed up at the laundry stairs. We're able to pick up some very important kills. But as he decides to drone first, there is a proximity alarm, and that will still go off. That will still give away your presence there, and that might make sure that you're not quite able to put up the surprise you wanted to.
Wow, that intel game still working in the favor of MIBR for now. They're limiting it as best as they can and capitalizing it where they, well, should. Yoga, he's trying to see if he can play against it. The grenades rolling onto the freshly opened dorms, but no bed. Or no one's caught sleeping, at least.
Grenades coming in, Philipok still below, Files are still checking here and there on those white stairs as Yoga is looking to bounce up here, hoping to find a very tight angle, but for now won't find any. The grenades will be tossed in to potentially locate or dislocate players on the side of MIBR. The first kill comes in, he descends these stairs and finds Philipok. That was going to be the danger all around, but Rita comes around with a shotgun here. It is Reps that finds himself a kill as well before he gets traded out. The man count, however, stays in favor of MIBR, and as the smoke canisters were being tossed into that big window, it's File still alive. He has one left in pocket, 15 seconds to stall, but there's still 1 minute and 10 left off the clock. So Oxygen, they just need to slow this down. There is still some utility on that board. And as Files just uses his last piece of utility, now will mainly come down to the gunplay from both these teams.
Fox with a slow creep round here. There's a yellow ping just on the player inside security. They have an awareness though. And it's Luka that's able to keep himself standing. Kino, all that's left for this round. He's swinging on a couple of different fights. They know exactly where he is. There's a close body with a shotgun just to the left, and one a little bit more leaning into the fight. There he is, either side of that dorms, that core. He's jiggle peeking the other side. He has a second stack up, but it only takes one. And now they only need one for them to lock in their map here. Oregon as their opener.
It was the Brazilian against the Brazilians in that matter. And he was unable to successfully lock them out. It's match point. MIBR are currently 1 round away of locking off the first with quite a convincing fashion. And they're doing so well in the defense. It's just that they need to go to a tertiary site right now, which we'll be meeting.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? That's what we sort of talked about after that TAC timeout, is even though this is obviously MIBR's map, what OXG now need to do to try and pull some of this distance back is take the tertiary site, which there's always possibility there, but then they also have to then go back to Laundry, where they timed out. They couldn't get enough of a handle on their push. And then back to dorms there, where it wasn't even a problem of timing out. They were just locked out. And one thing that you sort of get in the engagements between these two teams is they are so scrappy. They are so set up for trade games. Both sets, both rosters are ensuring that as soon as one player finds an engagement, usually there's at least another 4 people across the two teams that die in the next 15 seconds in the same 15 square meters.
That's it. And then that bottom white stairs skirmish is a great example of that. As soon as the first kill gets picked up, it's instantly a trade to come in from the top. He also gets traded out, but then suddenly there is yet another player that is appeared out of nowhere on the side of MIBR, picks up an important kill as well, and somehow, even if Oxygen gets the opening kill, it's MIBR that walks away with an extra man alive. And that is because they were ready to go for that trade game. They were well aware where the push was coming from, especially when they managed to pick up Philipok, who was on that Oryx. So it was quite close to an engagement there. Yoga decided to pull back just slightly to wait for the drone to clear out that flooring. And as we are on kitchen dining, it seems like currently Oxygen is quite heavily located around the kitchen side of things. They might always rotate, of course, but MIBR, they have a couple of members up on the top floor themselves as well. One around the armory is Redact actually falling back, has a shield with 2 ADSs to try and hold on as long as he possibly can onto this bedroom. And, you know, they might make some breaches. That's totally fine. They can open it up if they want, but as soon as they start passing, it's going to be 2 MIBR members that will be putting pressure upon them.
Yoga, he's pulled the pin. He hoped for a swing round. That grenade bounces the opposite corner of Falls. He takes a little bit of scrap damage, but he's otherwise happy. Set up with a shotgun inside security to wait for other pressure to start to come to a cook. He's concerned with the rotation, but to catch these players up on the top, somebody has to try and take a little bit more focus from the rest of the setup here. OXG, they're sort of stacked up in an arc, one around the double window all the way towards the drop player. Kino just outside the bedroom door is taken care of by the wide swing of Raps and Lax. Upside down Repel sort of wanted a bit of a follow-up confrontation here, but it's Yoga next against Raps inside that main core of the site itself. Falls is just holding Fox at bay. They have an idea of where each other is, but with that player underneath, with that potential pressure of a shotgun, it's always so dangerous here. As you can see, he's stacked up. He's waiting for the moment a foot hits the other side to cut it entirely off.
There's currently a lot of pressure upon him, though, as Reduct just might have heard someone walk by there. The diffuser has been re-picked up. It's Laxing that has it under control now, and as he heads in his drone, it's actually quite a dangerous thing to do. He's not going to get any information due to a mute jammer. It might be an EP. Yep, there it is. He's going to try and figure out whether or not it will be clearing a white swing with that shotgun. He's not going to find anybody as of yet. Foxy, however, gets an opening. They're at the bottom of the 90 area and are looking to expand themselves into security and into the meeting hall itself. A Yoga drone gets spotted but not taken out. Yoga wants to play the silent game here. He looks to play sneakily around it, and as Laxton goes for a big rotate as well, it seems like they might be trying to pull off a plant in the kitchen area.
Well, the grenades are going to start bouncing their way off the top. They're going to see if they can try and push Raps further and further away, let them slink in, see if they can slip their way by, and the diffuser hot hops itself into the corner of the kitchen. They're still concerned, and the pings, they're about to be dropped. Monumental take, but it's a spray! Laxing is able to absolutely twirl and pivot into that play, but a second, there's one, there's two! Reduct finds that little sliver and pulls it apart to take Oregon.
There we have it. MIBR is going to be one step in to continue down the lower bracket with a very convincing first map, and where the first 4 maps we had